Welcome to the Queen City Music Podcast, the podcast devoted to the local music scene in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, here's your host, Matthew Ablin.
Hello, everyone. There have been some wonderful things happening here at the QCMP as of late, and I'm proud to announce that we have our first sponsor. We're happy to help promote Middle C Jazz on the podcast, as it is truly a gem in the crown of the Queen City. If you're not familiar with Middle C Jazz, you can check out December 2020's interview with Managing Director Teddy Johnson. That's episode number 38. Middle C Jazz is Charlotte's premier jazz club located at 300 South Brevard Street in Uptown Charlotte. Stop in for Thursday night jazz jams, gospel Sundays every third Sunday of the month, or bi-weekly Wednesdays for Remember Wednesdays. But if you prefer, stay in for the evening and watch their Saturday night live stream. We'll have access to the best performances Middle C Jazz has to offer. And if you want the VIP treatment, get a Baby Grand membership where life takes you to a higher note. Tickets are now available for Tracy Hamlin on May 28th and 29th, Alexander Zonig on June 5th, and the Jeff Lauber Trio on June 25th and 26th. Make sure to visit middlecjazz.com for a complete list of events. This, of course, is episode 44 of the Queen City Music Podcast, and I'm thrilled to speak with the multi-talented Eduardo Cedeno, who is the founder and principal conductor of the Lake Norman Philharmonic. But don't pigeonhole Eduardo. Besides being a conductor, he's also a talented singer, violinist, and educator. Eduardo Cedeno, thank you for coming on the podcast. It's great to see you on this beautiful Sunday afternoon.
Thanks for inviting me.
So, Eduardo, are you originally from the Charlotte area?
Well, I'm not. Came from Indianapolis, Indiana. I've been here since the end of October 2005. I came here to get a job at private school, and I've been here since, and I'm loving it. It's a little too cold in Indiana, but that's where I come from.
So what's your musical background? Because I know we were talking earlier, and you went to school for music in Indiana. How did you get involved with music? Even before you went to school, how did you get involved?
Well, originally I'm from Caracas, Venezuela, and my grandparents from my dad's side were involved in the opera, not so much in classical music, but in opera. So growing up, my dad had this old LPs that he kept to himself, listened to opera. I went to see my cousin singing the opera Toscan from Giacomo Puccini when I was a little kid.
Okay.
And then I said, I like kind of stuff. And then the orchestra and the whole thing going on. But my dad was not involved in the opera directly, but he was an opera goer, right? So I love that. In that process, I saw instruments and I fell in love with the violin. And I've been doing that since I was a young person. And I played some other musical instruments along the way because you're young and said, let me try that flute. Let me try French horn. Let me try guitar, But no, really, my instrument was violin and voice because I want to imitate those guys. In my time, all the guys were screaming, but I want to do it. That was a fun thing.
So when you came to the United States, was it and you got up to Indiana, was that your first trip to the United States to Indiana to study music, or were you already in the States before you went to school?
I was playing a professional orchestra, playing violin, but somehow I wanted to upgrade myself. And I auditioned for a scholarship, so I got that. And looking for where to go. Although I have family in New Jersey and New York, will be the easy transition. I decided to go a place where more quiet, I guess. And I went to the embassy of the United States in Venezuela, and they gave me some options. And I saw in Indiana University as a choice. And then I said, well, what did I know about Indiana? The only thing I knew was the 500 race and nothing else. So I went to Indianapolis. So I got my scholarship and then started it. I never went actually to Bloomington, Indiana, but I stayed in Indianapolis where I met Hidetaro Suzuki, was a concert master of the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra. And I auditioned for him. and I became a student of Butler University, where he was an adjunct to the university. So I started violin, and basically I had a voice as a minor, and I started conducting those three. It's still doing the same.
So you start out violin, that's your real focus. What connected that switch over to conducting? Because you are mainly a conductor right now, aren't you?
Yeah.
So how did you make that switch? Was there something that you really saw in conducting? Was it just taking a conducting class that got you interested? What was it? What was that switch for you?
Well, I had to go back to my beginning. So when I was in high school, I always like to have people together.
Okay.
We don't have a means like today. We have a finale, or we have Sibelius programs that we can write music in. We have to write it by hand.
Right.
And I said, how will we get together and do a concert? And I was kind of the leader, so to speak. Well, what do you play? Well, I play saxophone. Okay, well, it's an E flat. Okay, but I play violins and C. And I started looking ways to match all those instruments, put it together, and transposing.
Right.
You struggle a little bit, but you want to do it, right? Do it excited. So that got me into somewhat be a teacher, a leader, and conducting the group. I think it was born at that time. So when I went to Butler University, I saw the possibility of conducting that orchestra, and that was a class, and I took it and I did a good job, and I love it. I mean, it's like another big instrument.
So when you're conducting, do you find it more challenging as a musician to conduct as opposed to playing an individual instrument? Because in conducting, I know, well, first off, you got all these players to manage. And you also have to communicate a vision of what you want to those players. And then besides music, you have to manage personalities. I mean, that's just what it is. And you're not in a rock and roll band. We have 4 people. I mean, you're in an orchestra. We have 50 people and personalities. So do you see it more as more of a challenge to conduct than you would as a instrumentalist?
Always is. And you hit on a point where it's personalities. Personality is a big thing. Brass players have a different personality than the people who play strings, by far. Yeah. They have a different way of looking at things. I found that the brass player are more versatile to do certain things, transpose and doing things. String players know wire or train in that way, with some exceptions, you're right. But having a people in front of me, like I said earlier, I started back when. So I knew, because I used to play them too. Can I try? I said, boy, right? So I knew the challenges. I knew that, how can I get so many notes in a 3-bow trumpet? So you learn how to modify your lips. And so I knew how the instrument worked. So by the time I was older, I was in my 20s, and I was in college, I already got a good notion of how it works. But then, yes, you have a small group, and then now you have a score that got 28 parts. Okay. 28 parts simultaneously running. And I said, whoa, what should I look? Because then you learn techniques, look in the center, look at the woodwinds are on the top, and then you get the brass coming next and your score, and then percussions in the middle, and the strings on the bottom. Try to focus where the melodies are, the contrasts are, fortes and piano dynamics. And then you have to sit down and highlight things and study it.
So how intimately do you know each line? Because of course as you're just saying, there's so much going on in the score. How intimately do you know what the strings are doing as compared to the woodwinds, as compared to percussion
well, to start with, I played in the orchestra before. I mean, you just play your instrument, but you know how the orchestra functions. You know what things to look for. You knew that if I have a long note in my violin playing where the oboe has a solo, although the orchestra score might say mezzo forte, kind of semi-loud or not, you know, if the melody is running on the oboe, I had to go under, and then when I had the melody, you learn the dialogue, so to speak, of the melodies. You do it by instinct, because I was young. I mean, I was 14, 15 and youth orchestra. I don't have a big concept of everything.
Sure.
But now I do. And I studied with that background. I need to bring those instruments lower, higher in this. Everything is in the fingertips. Mm-hmm. And rehearsal does everything, right? By the time you perform, you become unnecessary, basically, because you already put all the pieces of the puzzle together.
And what is your favorite part about conducting? Is it bringing all the musicians together? Is it the technical of learning all the parts and creating the music?
No, when you're already in the performance, I like the idea of community. We all have to work together. You also have the same heartbeat. Mm-hmm. In that case, I take over that. But when I do the downbeat and everybody comes together, I the one that make it happen. I love that part of it. And the synergy that happened before and when it happened. Mm-hmm. So you walk on the stage, you say hello to the audience, you say hello to the first concert master or concert mistress, and here you are. Nothing's happening, but it's about to happen. This is that moment right there. It's so precious to me. So finally, I go the downbeat and everything happened. Everything becomes real. So at that moment, it will function. I look at their faces and I give them entrances or a little gesture to bring them softer or louder. And I'm reminding them what did happen. So we become a big community. And I love that synergy.
So I'm going to take you back just briefly. Your first conducting experience, were you conducting an entire concert or were you conducting just a singular piece?
I've done many things simultaneously. Back when in my youth, that I said I put the guys together, it was a group of no more than 10. Mm-hmm. And then I do choral conducting. I did more in the Conservatory of Music, but then they had a 4-part harmony because soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. And it's challenging because, well, you're learning.
Right.
It's only 4 parts. And then I grew when I was in college and so on.
So a lot of musicians, Eduardo, they have performance anxieties when they get on stage. They're nervous and they're not sure. As a conductor, how do you have those reservations when you get on stage that you're nervous to move and communicate to the musicians? Does that get to you at all?
Butterflies, yeah. For now, I had the butterflies information, so to speak. Yes, it depends what it is. I think the biggest event I ever conducted in my life was Carmina Burana. Carmina Burana calls for a big, large ensemble.
Oh, yeah.
Two grand pianos, full orchestra, 110 musicians, and a big 200 to 300 people choir where all the voices and the length. I had the opportunity to perform, memorize, and enjoy in the different languages. The piece of German and Latin, and that's a very exciting piece. I used to sleep with the score. I mean, it's just, I got to remember the flute comes here, but the soprano comes there. So it's two different, also personality. Go figure that one, right?
Right.
So the soprano have their own ways. Altos always asking, can we go back to this? Or more analytical type of personalities. Tenors always screaming. Basses probably sometimes say, where are we? And they're lost and things. And all of this, but you have done this before. And then bringing everything together is a challenge, but exciting challenge. So I remember when I conducted a piece twice. Yes, I got more than butterflies in my stomach. What if I forget? I conducted the whole thing by memory, 1 hour straight. But yeah, you feel the pressure. You talk and you rehearse, but then the day off, 5 minutes prior, you're behind, you're by yourself, and somebody telling you got 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 4. And that, believe me, you sweat. And I said, God, help me here. Yeah, and I said, everything that needs to be done, it has been done. Now it's time to perform. It's when you walk on the stage to get to your podium, that's probably the most crucial moment. Mm-hmm. But then you bow to the audience, you turn to the musicians, and you still got this. You always pause because I will go in a prayer. But once you go the downbeat, everything is we're rehearsing.
Right.
I mean, You just get involved with what being said and done, and things flows. So if you've done your job, and that people will agree with me, and that's how it is. If you've done your job prior. So the scare kind of disappear in a way, but you don't want to be too comfortable either. I've been comfortable too, no good either. You don't want to be too nervous, but you don't want to be too comfortable, because then you start lacking things. No, you want to be in the age of the two things.
I think for me, I had a lot of performance anxieties when I was younger and studying classical guitar, because one, playing classical guitar, you didn't move a lot. You sat there and you played, and it was just very minimal movement. And coming back and playing rock and roll really helped, because I got to move on stage and play as opposed to just standing still. And the other thing I found, at least for me, when I was playing classical, I didn't get a lot of performance opportunities. You know, there were very few and far between. I'd play here, I'd play in school, but actually getting gigs and playing as a classical player were few and far between for me. But when I started playing rock again, I had more opportunities to perform. So the butterflies didn't happen as often anymore. It's less. I think you become a little more used to it. And it becomes part of what you do. It's not so much, oh my gosh, I'm going on stage, are the people going to like it? It's like, oh, I just did this on Friday night. Now it's Saturday. Oh, and I got another gig on a Friday again. So, you know, the more you do it, the more you kind of get used to it, I think.
But you always have that little piece, that little in the performance that it's a little challenge you a little bit beyond your ability, just a little bit. And you're concerned about that. It's like singing. You're waiting for the high notes, a high C for a tenor. And you spend the whole time you're performing thinking about that particular thing. So, you learn how to cope with that. But by doing it, it's I have experience doing it. No, you're always experiencing the same thing. It's just you got something in the bank, so to speak, in your memory and your experience about doing it, but you're always experiencing. It's not something that isn't sitting on a shelf. People, I have experience. Well, it's good for some professions, but like yours and mine, you're always experiencing. And there's always a little something new that you learn. Gosh, I didn't know that coming, and now next time I want to do this and that.
Yeah, that is the beautiful thing about music. It could take a lifetime or 2 or 3 lifetimes just to learn all the stuff that you want to know, even about just one style of music. It's never ending. You're always picking up new things with music. So Eduardo, I want to change gears just a little bit. We'll come back to conducting in a little bit. You're not only conductor and instrumentalist, but you are also a teacher. Can you fill us in about teaching a little bit? When did you start to become a teacher? When did you start getting into that?
I don't think I have a date that I can bring it to you, but back what I said earlier, I mean, when I was with those guys in high school, I guess the appetite to tell people what to do, how to do it, it started back there as far as I remember. Mm-hmm. Also, somehow I got I said this humbly, some gift. I went to voice lessons and my voice was already there. I think I was imitating what I heard in those operas, and then that brings in my head and I interpreted how to sing. So basically when I was in the Conservatory of Music, it was already there.
Okay.
And I remember in college, I performed more voice with my voice than those who were voice major. Mm-hmm. By far. But I was a violin major. So, because I had those things already in my pocket, so I decided to tell them how to do it. He said, this is what I'm thinking when I'm playing. This is how I do it. This is how I prepare my fingers. This is how. Do you become a teacher without really knowing it? Uh-huh. But because they ask you also a question, how you do it so easily? And I had to dig in my head because I didn't know. And then I had to discover myself, how do I do what they cannot do, and I do it so easily. Right. I couldn't explain it when I was 18. Now I discover some little things about reading. oh, this is what they cannot do, and I can do, so I'm going to explain it to them. And I break it down in pieces. I couldn't do it because I never broke it down in pieces. Never. So I just started singing.
Right.
So people can say, sing O Sole Mio. And I went, okay, here it goes. O Sole Mio. And then I went, T'affrontate. And I was saying, oh, how you do that? And I go, I have no idea. So you go back and you say, what's happening in my lips and my mouth and my thing, how you pronounce, how you move your tongue, how you breathe and all that. They have to have something to say. And then, but I know what I was thinking when I was doing it. And that, that's how I became a teacher, I guess. I mean, I love doing it. I love telling people how to do it.
Yeah, teaching is in a way, it's very much like performing, and learning an instrument. You are constantly running into things that how do I do this? How do I teach somebody how to do that? Every little step. And I think you learn, but then again, of course, you have newer people that you start to teach, and you might come up with the perfect way to do it that 95% of the kids get, or adults, or whoever you're trying to teach that to. But then again, you start teaching it, and then there's somebody who doesn't understand, and they don't learn that way. So you've got to figure out a new way to get that across to them on how to do it. So it's always something.
There's another thing is how I want the music to sound like. When I want to go to instruments, you play guitar, and I play some guitar, and sometimes you teach your people, what is this chord here, or sometimes make a little solo, and then they play on the E string, and yeah, but what about if you do it on the D string? You do this, but why do go through all this?
Yeah.
And then another dimension comes in because it's tone color. And they say, what? Yeah, sound a little more cover, sound a little more pasture, more full, more robust. And then you start teaching something else. That's why I do it on that string. And on the other string is I borrow more metal, like a little metal. And that's how I'm open, or instead of cover, instead of It's the same note, but it sounds better. So teaching comes in right there and then. Why you do some things.
So right now with the conducting, we were talking earlier, and you were over at Langtree working with the kids over there, doing conducting. Can you fill us in a little bit about the program over there, what you guys do?
Well, the program started with people probably there was a guy there that invited me to open the high school. And his name, I think I'm afraid to mention, was Frank Albert. Okay. Frank Albert's so well known in the community. He plays violin, fiddle. Well, he plays anything. He's just amazing. He owns the fiddle shop in Davison. So Davison Violins. We met each other from 2006 and till now. And then he told me about the program. He said, you and I, we can do a lot of things. And we did. He now left for North. You got another gig up north in the United States. But anyway, so we started the program from scratch. But we had between us, a lot of stuff, a lot of experience, a lot of methods and what we wanted to do. So I took the band and I took the strings, but we went back and forth. And that's how I liked it, and it still is the way. That it's not just the band and the strings, but we can do also concerts together. And that's the program itself. And I like what I'm doing. I like that part of it.
What do you particularly like about working with younger kids? Or I shouldn't say younger kids, but what do you like working about with the kids? And what's different with working with kids than working with adults in something like the Lake Norman Phil that you had, what you do? What's different about it for you?
There's a different aspect, pride. Kids have less pride. Well, I've been doing this for 30 years. You don't get that because they're young and they're willing to, they're like a sponge. They're going to learn, they're going to do, they're going to explore. And can I play? And they bring you music. Hey, can we do it in the iPod or whatever they have? Can we play this? And they play it for you. But then they realize it's harder to play it than hear it. But the adults, it's more set in their ways. So you have to sometimes bring it out. There are ways that there are other ways to do things. Some people my orchestras are very classical. And they don't feel too comfortable playing Duke Ellington, for instance. And they go, well, okay, so this is the program I play. But kids don't have that distinction because they don't have that background.
Right.
So I like the two things. So it's a teaching moment for being the big orchestra and adult orchestra, but it's a teaching moment for the kids because, oh, wait, how can I do this? They have a lot of questions.
Yeah, kids are a lot more pliable like that. They're interested to learn a lot of new things. They don't need to just stick with classical music. You can throw in some pop and some things that they haven't heard before, and they're always willing. That's one of the things with kids. They're always willing to kind of learn and do something new and step out of the box, as it were.
Yeah, and the older crowds is less, they don't want to venture too much. I think that the people that are in the pop culture are more willing to venture new things because they were born doing it.
Right.
I learned that watching jazz groups. So how about this? So what about that? And then what about this? Classical trained players, some are. But no, well, that's the way it is. It's going to go with the violins. It's going to be up bow. Well, we've done it this way.
Right.
This orchestra, that orchestra, and the other orchestra. But what about if we play with the wood of the string? I mean, with the bow. Do you ever try that? There's weird things. So, they look at you and they do it, but you see the tension a little bit.
Just out of curiosity, when you're working with the kids, do you have any kids who have gotten interested in conducting? Do you have any of the kids come up and conduct pieces if they have a real interest in it?
I had a kid that had a bad attitude about everything. And one time got in a fight, almost physical fight with the other kid. He played trombone. He took a backpack and threw it at him all this. So in the midst of all this, I said, well, that kid has a leadership. Definitely. I said, Kevin, no, Mr. Provin, can I talk to you? You say, what is that? I see you have a little leadership. Everybody paying attention what you're doing. You crazy stuff. So what do you want me to do? How about conducting the band? Oh, I do it. I knew he was going to say that, right? So he was a military. No, you play too loud. You yell at the kids. No, put us off because says so. You need to confront them physically. He was a big guy. And they confront the kids. Are you going to play piano or not? And then go back. And I said, I was right. So he was a little rough, but so we had a concert. He conducted one of the pieces. Oh, marvelous. They had leadership. So I decided to change the whole occurs to me and thinking outside the box, I guess. So that happens.
So just to change things up a little bit, you're currently working as well with the Lake Norman Philharmonic. Can you fill us in about the Lake Norman Phil and what you guys do? Well,
right now, we're rehearsing a lot. Quite a bit. Like I said, I put in different programs together.
Mm-hmm.
If you want me to talk about that, we're playing a piece by Beethoven, the second movement of the First Symphony. We're doing violin concerto by Mozart, number 5. One of my students is going to play, very gifted lady.
Okay.
I'm going to play 2. I want to play a double violin concerto by Vivaldi with a concert mistress. And that gave opportunity a bass player, who's a very gifted guy, to conduct what I'm performing. So that opportunity exists. Then break some other pieces, and then we'll play things that are more. We're gonna do a piece about Duke Ellington. We're gonna do George Gershwin. By the way, I saw in the program you conduct Gershwin before. Was it in Paris? Is that what you conduct? Yes, it was April in Paris. Well, I want to do part of the George Gershwin, which is he introduced the jazz in his own way, and pieces of that nature. More for the other public. They like the more pop music.
So the Lake Norman Philharmonic that we're just talking about, I thought it was around for a little bit longer, but apparently you corrected me. You told me you founded it in 2020. Can you fill the audience in on why you established the Lake Norman Phil? What made you do that? what was your thought process in establishing it? Why you did it?
Well, it's in my DNA, I guess, to have orchestra. I like conducting, and that's the beginning of that. And I got friends that they follow me for doing it. I knew some of them for some time, from all the things I have done. And basically, one thing brought the other things. And the concert mister that was, we know each other for a long time, called some people, I called some people, and that's that's the way it came together.
Okay. And what, you guys, we were speaking earlier about it, but with the Lake Norman Philharmonic, you're kind of bringing classical music out to the people. You are not content on just keeping it, hey, we're playing at this church. People need to come to us. We're actually going out.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? What made you do that?
Well, you gotta understand, I come from all the places, right?
Right.
I come from, when I was young, and I was in the ocean, and there was a lot of concerts out there in the open, mm-hmm. even classical music sometimes, and say, why not? I mean, playing in different places. I mean, why not? Bring it to the audience, bring it to everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, as we talked earlier, classical music, along with some other live music, I mean, not just because of the pandemic, but classical music has had a fall in attendance and just overall maybe audience interest in it. And one of the things that you're doing, which we were just talking about, is bringing it out to the masses. I think that's really important to expose people to that music in that sense, as opposed to, hey, the only place you can go hear classical music is in this concert hall. We will actually come out to a winery or a bar or something like that and perform.
Well, you see guys like the two cellos, right? They become very popular, and they play everywhere, play jazz, play rock and roll. But those guys who well trained, you hear their interviews, they were trained classical, like I was too. So they know the goods and bad and everything else, but they are so integral. Instead of just one piece of the puzzle, they're integral. And right. I like that. I like to be integral. I play anything. Some genre, I don't explore too much because for other reasons, basically if I have lyrics that I don't like, mm-hmm. It's a little controversy or something, I don't bring that in. But if it's clean, I'm all for it. Yeah.
Are you using platforms like Instagram and Facebook to communicate out about performances for the Lake Norman Phil or even Langtree's performance to parents? Are you utilizing these social media platforms for yourself?
Well, some parents are helping with that. I cannot do everything, but some parents that are young parents, and they're in their 30s and 40s, early 40s, helping me to put stuff on the social medias like Instagram and Facebook. And things that we're working on. Yeah, but I think I need to explore more. I cannot do everything, obviously, but I need a group to help me with this.
Yeah, it's a strange thing to have to navigate today as a musician. Besides learning music, you've got to navigate the social media world. So Eduardo, what do you guys have coming up? What's coming up for you in 2021? I know performances are not what they were in prior years, and we're not sure where the future is leading, but what do you have coming up?
Go to my website, which is Lake Norman Philharmonic.com and .org, and May 22nd it's on Stone. We're going to perform at Charles Mack Citizen Center, and we'll perform starting at 7 p.m. And people can come and enjoy the beautiful of the old guys, the Mozart. We will play it one movement. That's another thing. I don't play the whole piece, just one movement. Mm-hmm. So one movement of Beethoven First Symphony. We will play one movement of Vivaldi double violin concerto, me being one of the two violins. We're going to do one movement of violin concerto by number 5 by Mozart. Because that way we have room for more other things. Also, mm-hmm. we're featuring a tuba player. We're going to play a piece by, it's a ballad. It's a beautiful piece for tuba and orchestra. You don't hear that very often. Then we break, and then we're going to have more pop music that I believe enjoy everybody. So that's how I break it down. Besides that, in April, stay tuned of the date. We're going to play in the Barcelona restaurant, which is located in the middle of the town of Morrisville. Okay. And we did it during Christmas times. It was a great success. That's the two things coming immediately.
Okay. And if people want to find out more about Eduardo Cedeno, how do we get in touch with you? How do we find out more about you and what you do?
I have a website with my name, eduardocedeno.net, and they got my phone number, and they contact me, or they can go to the Lake Norman Philharmonic, and they'll find me. Also, I have a lot of videos out there, too. They can see what I'm doing. They're on YouTube, some of them. So they can recognize me, see who I am, and get my contact and Lake Norman Philharmonic.
All right. That sounds awesome. Well, Eduardo, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and hopefully I'll get out soon and get to check out the Lake Norman Phil and the performances you guys have coming up.
Thank you for having me on.
All right, man. Have a great day.
Okay, bye.
And that will bring episode 44 of the Queen City Music Podcast to a close. If you have an idea for an episode or would like to be a guest on the QCMP, reach out to me at qcmusicpodcast@gmail.com. Also, please check out our local partners, Records on the Wall at rexonthewall.com and Reporting from 20XX at reportingfrom20xx.wordpress.com. Until next month, be well and stay safe.